Morgan Harrington. The first case on our list is the murder of Morgan Harrington, a Virginia Tech student who walked out of a Metallica concert one autumn night in 2009 and was never seen alive in public again, in a case that would not be solved for nearly 5 years. Morgan Dana Harrington was 20 years old, a junior at Virginia Tech who had grown up in Roanoke County, Virginia. She was studying education with hopes of becoming a teacher. She was a devoted music fan whose favorite band was Metallica. Her parents, Gil and Dan, would later describe her in CNN interviews as outgoing, idealistic, and the product of a close family. On the 17th of October 2009, Morgan and 3 friends drove from Charlottesville to the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia for Metallica's World Magnetic Tour show, arriving around 7 in the evening. About an hour into the opening act, Morgan told her friends she needed the restroom and left her seat. She never came back. When she finally called her friends from outside the arena, she said she had been locked out by the no re-entry policy. She told them not to worry, she would find a ride. Morgan was last seen by witnesses on the Copley Road Bridge near the arena, trying to hitchhike. How does a college student vanish from a public concert venue in a city with thousands of witnesses? The answer, in this case, started with what investigators found and what they did not. Morgan's purse and cell phone, with the batteries removed, were found in an arena parking lot. The phone removal was a deliberate act. It meant whoever she had ended up with had thought through how to make her disappear. Her remains were discovered 3 months later, on the 26th of January, 2010, by a farmer named David Bass on a remote part of the 742-acre Anchorage farm in southern Albemarle County, around 10 miles from the arena. Morgan's mother later confirmed the death had been very violent and that bones had been broken. The case then took an unexpected turn. In November 2009, before her body had even been found, a UVA student named Blaine Eichner had spotted a Black Pantera t-shirt spread out on a hedge in front of his apartment on 15th Street near Grady Avenue in Charlottesville. He photographed it. In April 2010, Virginia State Police confirmed that the shirt was the one Morgan had been wearing the night she disappeared. DNA from the shirt was matched in 2010 to a then unknown male profile. That profile was already linked to a separate September 2005 abduction in Fairfax City. The case then went cold for years. Now we get to the break that finally cracked it open. In September 2014, a man named Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr. became the prime suspect in the disappearance of UVA sophomore Hannah Graham. Investigators got DNA from a cigar butt found in Matthew's wallet during a search. That DNA matched the profile from Morgan's Pantera t-shirt. The probability of a random match was less than 1 in 7.2 billion. Jesse Matthew Jr. had played football at Liberty University and Christopher Newport University, leaving each school after serious misconduct allegations. He had been working as a taxi driver in Charlottesville the night Morgan disappeared. On the 9th of June 2015, Matthew entered an Alford plea in the 2005 Fairfax case and received 3 life sentences. On the 2nd of March 2016, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in both the Harrington and Graham cases. He received 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. Capital murder charges were withdrawn as part of the plea agreement. In May 2019, Matthew was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. As of 2024, per WSET reporting, he had been transferred from a Supermax facility to Keene Mountain Correctional Center, a maximum security prison, while undergoing ongoing treatment. He remains incarcerated. Morgan's mother, Gil, founded a nonprofit called Help Save the Next Girl, an advocacy group focused on predator awareness and campus safety. While Morgan's case took 5 years to solve, the next case is one of the most well-known in modern American memory. It also took place at one of the most ordinary moments imaginable: a slumber party with 2 friends. Polly Klaas. The next case is one of the most well-known crimes in modern American memory. A young girl taken from her own bedroom during a sleepover, the largest manhunt in American history at the time, and the case that pushed an entire state to rewrite its sentencing laws. Polly Hannah Klaas was a 6th grader, born in January 1981. Her father Mark described her in a Klaas Kids tribute as a very pretty, smart, cheerful, and engaging girl. He also described her as a skilled actor who could nail the first read-through of a script. She lived with her mother, Eve Nicole, in Petaluma, California, after her parents' divorce. She was, by every account from the people who knew her, the kind of child the entire town remembered. On the 1st of October 1993, Polly was hosting a slumber party with 2 friends at the family home on Petaluma Boulevard North. Around 10:30 in the evening, a stranger entered her bedroom. He had taken a weapon from the home's own kitchen. According to the Polly Klaas Foundation, he tied up the 2 friends, pulled pillowcases over their heads, and told them to count to 1,000 before fleeing with Polly. Her mother and younger sister were sleeping nearby in the same house. They had no idea anything was happening until the friends managed to get free. Polly's reported last words to the man, according to all that's interesting, were a plea that he not hurt her family, who were in the next room. How does a complete stranger walk into a home full of people and take a child without anyone hearing a thing? The answer was that he had not entered randomly. The investigation that followed was, by every measure, one of the largest in United States history. Klaas Kids called it the largest manhunt in American history at the time. Around 4,000 volunteers helped search through October and November 1993. The image of Polly's face was distributed an estimated 2 billion times around the world. Mark Klaas became a public figure overnight, appearing on television begging for his daughter's safe return. For 2 months, the search yielded nothing. On the 4th of December 1993, Richard Allen Davis confessed and led police to her body. She had been buried in a shallow grave just off Highway 101 near Cloverdale, around 50 miles north of Petaluma. Richard Allen Davis was a career criminal who had been born in San Francisco in 1954. He had a long record stretching back to the 1970s. Burglary, kidnapping, assault. He had been released on parole in June 1993, only 3 months before he walked into Polly's home. The system had let him out, and he had been free for 100 days when he committed his most infamous act. Davis's trial was moved from Sonoma County to Santa Clara County. On the 18th of June 1996, he was convicted of first-degree murder with 4 special circumstances. As the verdict was read, Davis thrust both middle fingers at the courtroom camera. At his sentencing on the 26th of September 1996, he made a false claim about Polly's last words that prompted Mark Klaas to lunge at him. Judge Thomas Hastings then told Davis that he had made the decision very easy that day by his conduct, before formally imposing the death penalty. Mark Klaas founded the Klaas Kids Foundation in 1994. The case fueled the passage of California's 3 strikes law, signed in March 1994. As of 2024, Mark had announced that Klaas Kids would be winding down operations, saying he was 74 and ready to step back. Davis remains on California's death row. On the 31st of May, 2024, Sonoma County Superior Court Judge Benjamin Williams denied Davis's petition to recall his death sentence under SB 483. Mark Kloss told NBC Bay Area he hoped he would never have to hear from Davis again. The case is the subject of Kim Cross's 2024 book, In the Light of All Darkness, and an ABC 2020 episode titled Taken in the Night. While Polly's case set off a national conversation about sentencing laws, the next case is one of the most well-known cases of juvenile crime ever recorded in Japan, and the leniency of the sentences would shock an entire country. Junko Furuta. The next case is one of the most well-known crimes in Japan's post-war history. A high school student abducted on her way home from work, a captivity that lasted 40 days, and a set of sentences so lenient they pushed an entire country to question its own juvenile justice laws. Junko Furuta was a high school senior in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, Japan. She was, according to her school records cited on Wikipedia, well liked by her classmates and teachers, with high grades and infrequent absences. She dreamed of becoming an idol singer. She was working part-time at a plastic molding factory to save money for a graduation trip. On the evening of the 25th of November 1988, Junko was cycling home from her shift at the factory. Two young men, one named Hiroshi Miyano, the other named Shinji Minato, spotted her on the road. According to court records summarized by Wikipedia, Minato kicked her off her bicycle on Miyano's orders. Miyano then approached, pretending to have witnessed the attack, and offered to escort her home. He did not take her home. He took her to a warehouse, then to a hotel. How does a young woman get taken off a public road on her way home from work and stay missing for 40 days? The answer was the most disturbing part of the case. From the 25th of November 1988 until the 4th of January 1989, Junko was held captive on the second floor of the Minato family home in the Adachi neighborhood of Tokyo. The four primary perpetrators threatened to harm her family if she ever escaped. They forced her to phone her own mother to insist she had run away. Her family did not know she had been taken. They believed the calls. They had no way to look for her. Junko died on the 4th of January, 1989. The four men placed her body in a concrete-filled steel drum and abandoned the drum at a construction site in Tokyo's Kota ward. What broke the case open was almost a coincidence. In late January 1989, Miyano and a second man named Joe Ogura had been arrested in connection with an entirely unrelated case. During interrogation, Miyano became convinced that Ogura had already confessed to what they had done to Junko. He revealed where her body could be found. The drum was recovered on the 29th of March, 1989. Junko was identified by her fingerprints. Journalists from the Shukan Bunshun tabloid published the names of the boys involved, despite their juvenile status. Now we come to the part of the case that shaped Japan's national debate on juvenile crime. In July 1990, all four pleaded guilty to a charge described as committing bodily injury that resulted in death. Per Tuko News and Wikipedia, Miyano received 17 years, later extended to 20 on appeal. Ogura received 5 to 10 years and served the full 10. Minato received 5 to 9 years. Yasushi Watanabe received 3 to 4 years originally, increased to 5 to 7 on appeal. Two additional young men, Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara, had participated in the events, but not the killing. Both were released from juvenile detention by 2000. The leniency of these sentences, due to Japan's juvenile law at the time, sparked national outrage that has not faded in the decades since. According to a Hokkaido Broadcasting report republished in January 2025, in Tokyo Weekender, the current status of each man is as follows. Hiroshi Miyano, who later changed his name to Yokoyama, was released and arrested in 2013 for bank fraud, though not formally charged. Joe Ogura, who later changed his surname to Kamisaku, was released in 1999 and died in July 2022. Shinji Minato was released and reportedly reoffended. Yasushi Watanabe was released in 1996, developed a neurodegenerative illness, and died in May 2021 at age 49. The case is widely cited as the worst juvenile crime in Japan's post-war history. If you have made it this far and you enjoy content like this, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the cases coming up next include a husband on the night his wife disappeared, and a teenager taken from a Myrtle Beach hotel. While Junko's case shocked an entire country, the next case became one of the longest-running and most televised disappearances in modern American memory. Natalie Holloway. The next case is one of the most televised disappearances in modern American memory. A young woman on a high school graduation trip to the Caribbean, a night out at a bar, a ride in a car with 3 young men, and an 18-year wait for the truth that finally came in a federal courtroom in Alabama. Natalie Ann Holloway was 18 years old, born in Memphis, Tennessee. She lived in Mountain Brook, Alabama, with her mother Beth and stepfather George Twitty. According to Wikipedia, she had graduated from Mountain Brook High School with honors in May 2005. She had a full scholarship to attend the University of Alabama on a pre-med track. On the 26th of May 2005, Natalie and 124 classmates flew to Aruba for a 5-day graduation trip with 7 chaperones. On the night of the 29th into the 30th of May, the group went to a nightclub in Oranjestad called Carlos and Charlie's. Around 1:30 in the morning, Natalie was last seen by classmates leaving the club in a car with a young Aruban man named Joran van der Sloot and 2 Surinamese brothers named Deepak and Satish Kalpo. She did not appear for her flight home later that day. How does an honors student on a chaperoned graduation trip to a Caribbean island simply not come home? The answer was that for 18 years, no one outside of the people in that car would publicly say what had happened to her. Aruban police, FBI agents, Dutch military personnel, and an army of volunteers conducted extensive searches across the island. Her remains were never found. Van der Sloot was arrested twice. The Kalpo brothers were arrested 3 times each. All were released for insufficient evidence. The case was officially closed by Aruban prosecutors in December 2007. The investigation went silent for years. Natalie was declared legally dead on the 12th of January 2012 by Alabama probate judge Alan King. By that point, the case had become one of the most covered disappearances in modern American media. Beth Holloway had appeared on countless television interviews. She had pursued boycotts of Aruba. She had become, in many ways, the public face of every parent searching for a missing child. While the Aruban case stalled, Joran van der Sloot's life took its own dark turn. On the 30th of May 2010, exactly 5 years to the day after Natalie had disappeared, he killed a young woman named Stephanie Tatiana Flores Ramirez in his Lima hotel room. He had met her at the Atlantic City Casino in Lima. He fled to Chile and was extradited to Peru. On the 13th of January 2012, he was sentenced to 28 years for Stephanie's killing. In January 2023, an additional 18 years were added for separate trafficking offenses. Now we come to the part of the case that finally gave Natalie's family a public answer. On the 8th of June 2023, Vander Sloot was temporarily extradited to the United States to face federal extortion and wire fraud charges. The charges related to his 2010 attempt to extort $250,000 from Beth Holloway in exchange for the supposed location of Natalie's remains. The extortion attempt had failed at the time. The federal indictment that followed had quietly been waiting for years for its moment. On the 18th of October 2023, in Birmingham Federal Court, he pleaded guilty. As part of the plea, Vander Sloot submitted a recorded proffer in which he confessed to killing Natalie. According to a transcript released by CNN, he said Natalie had defended herself after he tried to be inappropriate with her. He then attacked her, used a cinder block, and dumped her body in the ocean. Beth Holloway said in court that for the first time in 18 years, Joran Vander Sloot was no longer a suspect in her daughter's killing. She said he was the killer. United States District Judge Ana Manasco sentenced him to 20 years to run concurrently with his Peruvian sentence. Vander Sloot will remain incarcerated until June 2043 in Peru. While Natalie's case finally closed in 2023, the next case is one of the most followed murder trials in American history. And the appeals from the convicted killer are still going on today. Laci Peterson. The next case is one of the most followed murder trials in modern American history. A young woman 8 months pregnant, a husband who told a story that did not add up, a mistress who came forward with recorded phone calls, and an appeal that, more than 20 years later, is still going through California courts. Laci Denise Peterson was 27 years old, born Laci Rocha. She had grown up in Modesto, California. She had met Scott Peterson at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. They had married in 1997. The couple had bought a 3-bedroom bungalow on Covena Avenue in October 2000 for $177,000. She worked as a substitute teacher and, per family interviews, enjoyed cooking and watching Martha Stewart. She was 8 months pregnant with their first son, whom they had named Connor. The due date was the 10th of February 2003. On Christmas Eve, the 24th of December 2002, Scott reported Laci missing. He told police he had returned home from a solo Christmas Eve fishing trip to the Berkeley Marina to find that his wife was no longer in the house. He told them the last time he had seen her was around 9:30 in the morning, when she was getting ready to walk their dog, Mackenzie. According to Fox News, her last known communication was a phone call to her mother, Sharon Rocha, around 8:30 in the evening on the 23rd. How does a husband return from a fishing trip on Christmas Eve and find his pregnant wife gone, with the family dog still wearing its leash in the yard? The answer started to come together less than a week later. On the 30th of December 2002, a Fresno massage therapist named Amber Frey contacted Modesto detectives. She had been dating Scott since the 20th of November. On the 9th of December, he had told her he was a widower facing his first Christmas without his wife. Laci had still been alive on the 9th of December. Amber had not known any of this. She agreed to begin recording calls for police. Per her Dateline NBC interview, Scott had spent the night before Laci's disappearance with Amber. On the 13th of April 2003, Connor's body washed ashore at Point Isabel. The next day, Lassie's torso was found about a mile away. Both had washed in from the same general direction as the Berkeley Marina, where Scott had said he had been fishing on Christmas Eve. On the 18th of April, Scott was arrested in La Jolla, near the Mexican border. He had bleached his hair. He was carrying $20,000 in cash and his brother's ID. The trial began on the 1st of June 2004 in Redwood City. Scott was represented by Mark Garagos. The lead prosecutor was Rick DiStasso. On the 12th of November 2004, after a 5-month trial, Scott was convicted of first-degree murder of Lassie and second-degree murder of Connor. He was sentenced to death on the 16th of March 2005. Now we get to the part of the case that has kept it in the headlines for 2 decades. The California Supreme Court overturned Scott's death sentence in 2020 due to procedural errors in jury selection. He was resentenced to life without parole in December 2021. In January 2024, the Los Angeles Innocence Project joined his appellate team and filed for new DNA testing. In May 2024, San Mateo County Judge Elizabeth Hill allowed testing on a piece of duct tape found on Lassie's body, but rejected most other requests. The Innocence Project filed a habeas petition in 2025. Per Court TV, Judge Hill denied the petition, finding that the new fetal development science the defense had cited had already been raised in 2015. The case is now being covered in the American Bar Association's 2025 summer issue. Scott Peterson, 53, is incarcerated at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione, California. He is serving life without the possibility of parole. The case has been the subject of Peacock's Face to Face with Scott Peterson and Netflix's American Murder, Lassie Peterson. As of 2026, the appellate process continues. The case that began on a Modesto street on Christmas Eve 2002 has, more than 2 decades on, still not stopped moving through the courts. While Lassie's case continues to move through the courts, the next case is one of the most well-known disappearances ever to come out of a spring break trip. And it stayed cold for 13 years before a single confession finally cracked it open. Brittany Drexel. Brittany Marie Drexel was a high school junior born in October 1991 in Rochester, New York. She was a student at Gates Chili High School. She played soccer. She was studying cosmetology. She aspired to model, despite a rare eye condition that had left her blind in one eye. Her mother, Dawn, told All That's Interesting that Brittany was full of life. She had been adopted by her stepfather, Chad Drexel, as a young child. In April 2009, Brittany left for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, against her mother's wishes, with friends. Her mother believed she was at Charlotte Beach near Lake Ontario in New York. On the 25th of April 2009, around 8 in the evening, Brittany left the Bar Harbor Hotel in Myrtle Beach to walk roughly 1.5 miles south on Ocean Boulevard to the Blue Water Resort. She was visiting a Rochester nightclub promoter named Peter Brazowitz. Surveillance video captured her arriving at the Blue Water. The same video captured her leaving by 8:45. While walking back to her own hotel, she was texting her boyfriend, John Greco. Her texts stopped at 9:15. Her cell phone last pinged near the Charleston and Georgetown County line. How does a young woman walking on a busy beach boulevard in the middle of spring break simply disappear? The answer was that the case stalled almost immediately. For years there were no leads, no witnesses, no clear suspect. In 2016, the FBI announced the case had become a homicide investigation. A jailhouse informant named Taquan Brown told investigators a story about Brittany being trafficked and harmed at a stash house. Based on Brown's account, a man named Timothy Deshawn Taylor was named as a person of interest. That theory turned out to be wrong. The FBI would later publicly apologize to the Taylor family for the misidentification. According to ABC News, in 2019 and 2020, investigators went back through the cell phone data. They pinpointed the exact moment Brittany's phone movement changed from walking speed to 55 miles per hour. That meant she had entered a vehicle. They then matched the time of that change against surveillance footage from the area. The footage led them to a single vehicle. The vehicle was registered to a man named Raymond Douglas Moody. On the 4th of May 2022, Moody was arrested for obstruction of justice. The next day, he confessed and led investigators to her remains. Her body was found on the 11th of May 2022 in a wooded area along Old Town Avenue in Harmony Township, Georgetown County. She was officially identified on the 16th. Raymond Douglas Moody was 62 at the time of his confession. He was a registered offender who had served half of a previous California sentence. Per his confession video released by the solicitor's office, Moody said he had been driving down Ocean Boulevard with his then-girlfriend Angel Vos when Brittany got into his vehicle. They drove to a Georgetown County campsite. After Vos left, Moody attacked Brittany and ended her life. Asked what had gone wrong, Moody said it had been nothing, that it had simply been his mind. On the 19th of October, 2022, Moody pleaded guilty in Georgetown County to murder, kidnapping, and additional aggravating offenses. He received life without parole plus 2 consecutive 30-year sentences. In court, Moody told the judge he had been a monster. Dawn Drexel told him directly that he would forever carry the scars of what her daughter had done to him. Per Yahoo and the South Carolina Department of Corrections, Moody is incarcerated at Lieber Correctional Institution. The case has been profiled on Dateline NBC's documentary The Last Walk in February 2024. While Brittany's case ended with a confession after 13 years, the next case is one of the most disturbing family crimes ever recorded in the United Kingdom, and it stayed silent for 7 years before another member of the family finally broke the silence. Shafileah Ahmed. The next case is one of the most disturbing family crimes ever to be tried in a British courtroom. A young woman taken to Pakistan against her will. A return home that ended in a final argument over a top, and a sister who eventually broke the silence after 7 years. Shafileah Iftikhar Ahmed was a high school student in Warrington, Cheshire, England, the eldest daughter of a Pakistani-born taxi driver named Iftikhar Ahmed and his wife Farzana Ahmed. The family had moved from Bradford to the Great Sankey area of Warrington when Shafileah was younger. According to a friend's statement read in court, she was extremely intelligent. She was an excellent student. She hoped to study law and become a solicitor. She had a close circle of friends and an interest in fashion. What had been happening at home, behind closed doors, was a different story. According to court evidence cited by The Times of Israel, Shafileah had begun rebelling against the strict rules of the household when she was much younger. She had hidden makeup and Western clothes at her school. In October 2002, school officials had alerted social services after Shafileah came to school with facial injuries. She told a social worker she was being told she would be married off in Pakistan. In her formal application to the Warrington Borough Council for Emergency Housing, Shafileah wrote that one parent would hold her while the other one struck her. How does a teenager who is openly asking authorities for help end up still inside the same family home? The answer is that, despite the warnings, the system did not move fast enough. In February 2003, her father took her to Pakistan against her will. According to West Yorkshire Police, she had been taken there to be forced into a marriage. While she was there, in protest, she drank bleach. The act severely damaged her esophagus. She required 8 weeks of hospital treatment after returning to the United Kingdom in May 2003. On the night of the 11th of September 2003, 4 months after her return, Shafileah was at home with her parents. There had been an argument over a top she had worn that day. According to the testimony of her younger sister Alicia, that argument escalated into a physical confrontation. Shafileah was harmed by her parents in front of her siblings. She was reported missing only after teachers raised concerns, around a week later. The investigation that followed was, on paper, intensive. Police bugged the Ahmed home in November 2003. They recorded incriminating statements. According to ITV, a reporting cited by NBC, Farzana was recorded telling another child that if the slightest thing came out of her mouth, the family would be in real trouble. Iftikhar was recorded saying that, with the support of newspapers, you could get away with anything. Shafileah's remains were found in February 2004 in the River Kent near Sedgwick, Cumbria, around 70 miles north of Warrington. For 7 years after that, the case sat without an arrest. The breakthrough came not from the police, but from inside the family. On the 25th of August 2010, Alicia Ahmed was arrested for arranging an armed robbery at the family home. During interrogation, Alicia told police what she had witnessed 7 years earlier. She had seen her parents end her sister's life. On the 7th of September 2011, Cheshire Police charged Iftikhar, then 52, and Farzana, then 49. The trial began at Chester Crown Court in May 2012. On the 3rd of August 2012, both were convicted of murder. Justice Roderick Evans sentenced each to life imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years. He told them in court that, in what they referred to as their community, Shafileah's conduct was bringing shame upon them, and that their concern about being shamed was greater than their love for their child. Both parents remain incarcerated in the United Kingdom and will not be eligible for parole consideration until at least 2037. On the 14th of July 2015, the first National Day of Memory for Victims of Honor Killings was held on what would have been Shafileah's birthday, organized by Karma Nirvana. While Shafileah's case ended with both parents convicted, the next case took place in California, and it began the same way as the Polly Klaas story. A child taken from her own home in the middle of the night by a man who lived 2 doors down. Danielle Van Damme. The next case took place in California in early 2002. A young child taken from her own home, a neighbor who had been inside the house only days before, and a luxury motorhome that left the neighborhood almost the moment her mother called 911. Danielle Van Damme was a young child in 2nd grade. She lived with her parents, Damon and Brenda, and her 2 brothers in the Sabre Springs neighborhood of San Diego. Days before her abduction, she and her mother had been selling Girl Scout cookies door to door in the neighborhood. One of the houses they had stopped at belonged to a neighbor named David Westerfield. He had invited them inside. On the evening of the 1st of February 2002, Brenda Van Damme went out with friends to a Poway bar called Dad's. Damon stayed home and put Danielle to bed around 10:30 in the evening. Brenda returned home at around 2 in the morning with 4 friends. The next morning, Danielle was discovered missing from her bedroom. Brenda called 911 at 9:50 in the morning. Within minutes of that call, David Westerfield, who lived just 2 doors down, left his home in his luxury motorhome, stocked with supplies for what looked like an extended trip. How does a neighbor, the same one a family had been to dinner with only days earlier, become a kidnapping suspect within hours of a 911 call? The answer started with door-to-door canvassing. As police interviewed neighbors that morning, Westerfield was identified as the only resident who had unexpectedly left immediately after Danielle was reported missing. His motorhome was tracked. Investigators followed his receipts to the desert, to the Imperial County Glamis Dunes, and to Coronado. When they brought him in, the forensic case began to come together quickly. The breakthrough came from inside the motorhome itself. Police found Danielle's blood on Westerfield's jacket. They found her blood inside the motorhome at his dry cleaner. They found hairs consistent with the family dog on his comforter. A jury would later hear that Westerfield had also possessed images that should never have been in any home. On the 27th of February 2002, 2 volunteer searchers found Danielle's remains near a trail off Dehesa Road in Harbison Canyon, east of San Diego. The cause of death could not be conclusively determined. She was identified by her dental records. David Allen Westerfield was a self-employed engineer with patents for medical devices. He had no criminal record. He was a divorced father of 2 college students. To the Sabre Springs neighborhood, before all of this, he had been an ordinary neighbor. The trial began on the 4th of June 2002. The lead prosecutor was Jeff Dusek. Westerfield was represented by Stephen Feldman. Per San Diego Reader's Archives and CBS 8, former San Diego District Attorney Paul Pfingst later revealed that there had been near-completed plea negotiations to learn the location of Danielle's remains. Those negotiations stopped the moment her body was found by volunteers. On the 21st of August, 2002, Westerfield was convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and possession of unlawful images. On the 3rd of January 2003, Judge William Mudd imposed the death sentence. The defense had introduced controversial implications about the Van Dam parents' lifestyle during the trial. Those implications became a cultural flashpoint at the time. The California Supreme Court affirmed the conviction and the death sentence on the 29th of July, 2019. Per NBC 7 San Diego, on the 12th of March 2024, Westerfield, then 72, was transferred from San Quentin's death row to High Desert State Prison near Susanville, California, under the Condemned Inmate Transfer Program, enacted following Proposition 66. His death sentence remains in place. With California's moratorium on executions, his execution is unlikely. Brenda Van Dam declined to comment to CBS 8 on the transfer. An overpass on Interstate 8 in El Cajon was named the Danielle Van Dam Memorial Overpass in her memory. The case was the subject of a series of Animal Planet, Dateline NBC, and 48 Hours specials. While Danielle's case ended with a conviction, the next case is one of the most disturbing adoption stories ever recorded in the state of Washington, and it changed how Ethiopia handled international adoptions for years afterwards. Hannah Williams. The next case is one of the most disturbing adoption stories ever recorded in the United States. An Ethiopian girl adopted by a fundamentalist family in Washington state. An outdoor death on a cold spring night. And a trial so long that it became the longest in the history of its county. Hannah Grace Rose Williams had been born Hannah Alemu in Ethiopia. Before her 2008 adoption, she had lived at the Kidna Meret Children's Home, a Catholic orphanage in Addis Ababa. Per Slate's investigation by Catherine Joyce, Hannah arrived in the United States in 2008 along with another Ethiopian adoptee, a young deaf boy named Emmanuel. The couple who adopted them were Carrie and Larry Williams. They were fundamentalist Christian homeschoolers who lived in Sedro-Woolley, Washington, with 7 of their own biological children. They adopted Hannah and Emmanuel through Adoption Advocates International, a Port Angeles agency that has since closed. The Williams family possessed a copy of a controversial book by Michael and Debbie Pearl titled To Train Up a Child, which would later feature heavily in the trial. According to Seattle Times trial coverage and Slate, what happened to Hannah inside that home was not an isolated event. It was a pattern. Hannah was harmed with objects. She was confined to a closet. She was made to use a separate bathroom outside the house. She was given different food than the rest of the family, often frozen. She was made to sleep outside. In the year before her death, she lost 30 pounds. How does a young person move from one country to another, then quietly disappear from public view inside an ordinary American home? The answer was that, in this case, the adoption process had not been followed by anyone after she had arrived. Hannah was homeschooled. She did not see doctors. She did not have classmates or teachers who saw her every day. The visibility that protects most children was, by deliberate design, removed. On the night of the 11th into the 12th of May 2011, the temperature in Sedro-Woolley dropped to 42 degrees. Hannah had been outside. She fell forward in the family's backyard. As Slate's Catherine Joyce reported, the family watched her stagger and remove some clothing, a known symptom of severe hypothermia called paradoxical undressing, before Carrie Williams finally called 911. Carrie told the operator she thought her daughter had ended her own life. The cause of death, the medical examiner later ruled, was hypothermia brought on by malnutrition. The trial in 2013 in Skagit County Superior Court was the longest in county history. On the 9th of September 2013, Carrie was convicted of homicide by abuse, manslaughter, and first-degree assault of a child for her treatment of Emmanuel. Larry was convicted of manslaughter and first-degree assault of a child. The homicide by abuse charge had specific statutory requirements that, in this case, required Hannah's body to be exhumed for verification. On the 29th of October 2013, Judge Susan Cook imposed exceptional sentences. Per King 5, Cook said in court that she felt the punishment should match the outrage felt by the community. She said she was at a complete loss. Carrie received 36 years and 11 months. Larry received 27 years and 9 months. The Washington State Court of Appeals refused to reverse the convictions in September 2019. Carrie's personal restraint petition was denied in 2020. Both Carrie and Larry remain incarcerated in Washington Department of Corrections facilities. Neither has any imminent release date. Adoption Advocates International, the agency that had handled the placement, closed in 2014. Ethiopia formally banned international adoptions in March 2018, citing cases like Hannah's as part of the reasoning. The Slate investigative series, written by Catherine Joyce, prompted Washington State to reform its adoption agency licensing. Joyce later expanded the work into a book titled The Child Catchers. The case is widely cited in American social work and adoption policy debates as an example of how a child can disappear from public visibility entirely while still living inside a private home. While Hannah's case ended with 2 convictions and a country closing its borders to international adoption, the final case on our list is the only one where the killer was not a stranger, not a partner, and not a family member, but a man pretending to deliver a package on an ordinary spring morning in Oregon. Brooke Wilberger. The final case on our list is one of the most publicized murder investigations in Oregon's history. A college student helping her sister's husband clean lampposts at an apartment complex, a man pretending to deliver a package, and a 5-year search that finally ended with a confession brokered by 2 governors. Brooke Carol Wilberger was 19 years old. Born in February 1985 in Fresno, California, to Greg and Cammie Wilberger. She had 3 sisters and 2 brothers and had been raised in a large Latter-day Saints family near Eugene, Oregon. She had graduated from Elmira High School and had just finished her freshman year at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. According to Oxygen, she loved animals and dreamed of becoming a speech pathologist. Her boyfriend, Justin Blake, was on a Mormon mission in Venezuela. On the morning of the 24th of May, 2004, Brooke was in Corvallis, Oregon, helping her sister Stephanie's husband by cleaning lampposts at the Oak Park Apartments on Southwest 26th Street. Per KSL, tenants in the complex heard a woman scream around the time Brooke was working. Her flip-flop sandals were left in the parking lot. The same day, a man named Joel Courtney attempted to abduct 2 other Oregon State University students in Corvallis. Both of those women managed to escape. How does a college student in broad daylight, in a busy apartment complex parking lot, simply vanish? The answer would not come for several years. According to Benton County District Attorney John Haraldson's later news conference, summarized by KSL, Joel Courtney had approached Brooke that morning posing as a delivery man. He had a fake FedEx envelope. When she came over to take what she thought was a package, he forced her into his green 1997 Dodge Caravan at knife point. He bound her with duct tape. He then drove 12 miles west onto an abandoned logging road between Blodgett and Wren in the Oregon Coast Range. He returned to town for food, leaving her bound in the van overnight. She was kept alive overnight. Haraldson confirmed in his press conference that Courtney harmed her there before ending her life. The break came from 1,000 miles away. On the 30th of November 2004, 6 months after Brooke's disappearance, a foreign exchange student at the University of New Mexico identified Courtney as the man who had abducted and assaulted her in Albuquerque. Investigators in New Mexico contacted Oregon authorities after learning Courtney had been in Corvallis on the day Brooke had vanished. Witnesses in Corvallis had reported seeing a green van. FBI forensic DNA examiners then found Brooke's DNA inside the van. They also found blonde hairs in a hair tie inside Courtney's duffel bag. Joel Patrick. Courtney had been born in 1966 in Beaverton, Oregon. According to Crime Library, he had been charged in 1985 with serious offenses in Washington County, Oregon. According to his sister Dina McBride, in interviews on Dateline, Courtney had a genius-level IQ. His wife had filed a restraining order alleging he had choked her 6 months before the New Mexico attack. In December 2007, Courtney was sentenced to 18 years in New Mexico for the University of New Mexico attack. He was extradited to Oregon on the 8th of April 2008. On the 21st of September 2009, in a plea deal brokered between Governors Ted Kulongoski of Oregon and Bill Richardson of New Mexico, Courtney pleaded guilty to aggravated murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. As part of the deal, he revealed where he had left Brooke, allowing her family to recover her remains off Highway 20 near Wren. At a press conference summarized by KSL, Brooke's mother, Cammie, said it might be hard for people to understand. But at that time, she felt nothing but gratitude, even toward Mr. Courtney, that he had seen fit to tell them where he had left her daughter. As of recent verifiable reporting, Joel Courtney was housed at Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico. The case has been profiled on Dateline NBC's Bringing Brooke Home, on America's Most Wanted, on ABC's 2020, and on Investigation Discoveries on the Case with Paula Zahn. Production teams should verify his current status with the New Mexico Corrections Department offender locator before any future broadcast. This was all from our side today. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.